So hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Donny Lowry.
And I'm Kirk
Don't
Prine.
forget your name.
I know,
And
really.
together we are delighted to be here and welcome you to another episode of Queer Tribe.
Yay.
And today we are graced by the presence of Adam Black. Hi, Adam. Um, say hi.
Hi, thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Anyway, so we're delighted to have you here today. We're going to give a little introduction so you have a little context for Adam, and he has some very interesting, fascinating things to tell us about. So let me give you a little information on Adam. Adam is an initiate of the unnamed path and is a fervent practitioner of folk magic and trad craft. His dedication to the spiritual journey runs deep as he explores the intricate tapestry of gay male mysteries. Adam is on a mission to guide and empower the LGBTQ plus community, aiding them in reconnecting with forgotten mythos and tapping into latent magic. He specializes in spirit walking and the reclamation of personal power. He serves as a catalyst for transformative experiences. His unique approach helps individuals rediscover their innate spiritual potential. He actively establishes connection with queer gay traditions worldwide, contributing to a network of support and shared wisdom. Beyond his mystical pursuits, Adam brings a wealth of experience in traditional Chinese medicine and Western traditional medicine. His expertise spans holistic practices in herbology, medical intuition, and various healing modalities. He's currently contributing to the nonprofit medical sector. Adam's journey includes significant contributions to the nonprofit animal rescue fields in earlier years.
Mm,
That's quite a bit of stuff there.
yeah,
So
fabulous.
welcome, welcome, welcome.
Welcome, Adam. And I'm
Thank
I'm
you.
hearing what sounds like I remember the chipmunks, how they used to talk. I was hearing that in the background. So if anybody's not muted, mute yourself until the end of the call if you would.
Thank
So
you.
thank you. All right. Well, welcome aboard and let's dive in. I know you're a veteran of these calls now, so you know the three magic questions. And so magic question number one, tell us about your spiritual awakening or your journey or just kind of, highlights with stories about your awakening.
Well, thank you so much for letting me join today. That is an excellent question. It really began when I was very young. So when most kids were running around the playground in elementary school and just doing regular kid stuff, I was the kid who was running around asking people if they believed in Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster and alien.
Ah,
Um, when I was 4 or 5, I was reading, and I blame Time Life for this. So I started reading Time Life book series. They had ones on cryptids and mysteries and the paranormal, and I just devoured these books
mm,
and
mm,
absolutely was drawn to the unexplained and to mysteries from a very young age.
mm,
I was always going to the bookstores and, picking up the books on psychic awareness or aliens or, whatever metaphysical thing was available. And this was a little bit difficult because my entire family is a bunch of scientists. So my
mm, mm,
dad is a organic chemist. My mom is an inorganic chemist.
mm,
My brother is a law professor. My uncles are doctors and
mm,
lawyers. So I come from this background of very intellectual people, and then here's this kid that basically just wants to like chase ghosts and go into the woods and find Bigfoot. So they really didn't know what to do with me.
mm,
Um, and I think the first inkling of this unfolding started when I came upon Cunningham's books, and I started exploring them and looking at at magic and trying to understand, how magic fits into things and how the mysteries fit into things. And it was a passion of mine very young.
Mhm.
And it only got more and more complex as I got older. So as I started getting into my teenage years, um, I would definitely have different pursuits than my friends would. Um, and really was more interested in the occult and the paranormal than I was um, anything else that was going on. And then that
Mhm.
kept going into my college years, where I started forming covens and actually became a little bit of a practitioner. I really didn't know what I was doing at the time.
Mhm. Mhm.
Definitely trying to explore the occult more deeply and understand it more deeply. And as I was starting to get out of college, I started meeting like-minded people. And these were older people. They had uh, gatherings, if you would, like out in the desert or the woods. There were full moon gatherings or um, chanting gatherings or drumming circles. And so I would start hanging out with them and just like going off into the middle of nowhere with 30 or 40 other people and would just have these incredible esoteric experiences. Um, and it was actually quite difficult for me to balance these two aspects of my lives. So, I have my family that's very scientific, and then I had, these sort of really intense feelings to pursue metaphysics. And it even got to the point where relationships were getting um, affected by it because my partners at the time, would make plans and I'd be like, oh no, there's a full moon gathering, or oh no, I got to go to this drumming circle. And I actually lost some boyfriends because they're like, so,
Mhm.
going to the desert and looking for spirits is more important than my birthday. And I'm like, yeah, unfortunately, I'm sorry to say
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
And so it was really difficult. Like I had to make a lot of choices in my life to sort of, I didn't meet people I didn't meet other gay men who like had the same interests that I do. Like it just didn't exist.
Mhm.
And so, the gay men that I did have relationships with or friendships with, like a lot of them didn't understand this. They didn't understand spirituality. They didn't understand metaphysics. And so the groups that I ended up going with were predominantly either older straight men or heterosexual women.
Mhm.
And so for many years, this was sort of the groups that I would fall into, and a lot of amazing women, a lot of amazing women. So,
Mhm.
I worked with Atlantean crystal healers. I worked with sound healers. I worked with and became actually an apprentice to a Native American medicine woman. And we developed a very close relationship. And she actually lived on sacred land in Arizona. And I spent a few years working with her.
Mhm.
And she would do ritual and she would do all sorts of things. And we would do sweat lodges and that sort of thing. And she taught me a lot of amazing, incredible things.
Mhm.
And I traveled to her quite frequently. And then eventually she's like, I want you to live with me because your training will go a lot easier. And I had this really, uh, these two worlds, there was my gay life,
Mhm.
as a gay man, and then there
Mhm.
was my spiritual world.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
really felt like they were not compatible. And
Mhm.
so I'll never forget it. I asked her, I said, you want me to live with you, but I'm gay. And she said to me, she goes, well, what does that matter? And I said, well, isn't that bad? And she goes, it doesn't matter when it comes to your spirituality. So it wasn't a perfect answer, but it made me feel like, wow, for the first time, someone's like at least accepting like
Mhm,
that I'm gay and I can be spiritual at the same time. And I
mhm,
still felt like they weren't compatible things,
mhm,
and being in groups with a lot of straight people, like, you always feel like you have to push down that aspect. It's like everybody knew I was gay, but nobody really said anything about it or brought in an aspect of my
mhm,
spiritual
mhm,
practice.
mhm, mhm,
So I was still searching. I was searching for something. Like, I would go to all seances and channelings, and I mean, if it was metaphysical, like, I was there, and I was doing all sorts of crazy things. I remember I was getting done with a channeling that I went to on Venice Beach, and I was just walking around kind of enjoying the energy. And I saw this guy on at the beach, and he, just looked like a Sufi, like right out of the books kind of thing. And he was doing readings, and I just sat next to him, and like, it was weird because for a minute he kind of ignored me, and I was like, "Hey, I want a reading." And he like looked at me really intensely, and he's like, "What's your question?" And I said, "Well," and I always had so many questions at that age, and I was like, "Is God real? Is the devil real?" Like, and the only thing, he looked at me and he said, "You will know the devil. You will know who the devil is." And then that was it. And then he was like, "Okay, you could go." And I'm like, like, what? That was so bizarre. So, you know, I I was just constantly looking for answers, and
mhm,
not finding them. I was doing a lot of amazing work. A lot of people, were doing healing circles. And then I went into um I went into natural medicine. That's what I got my degree in. And I started teaching on medicinal aromatherapy and natural holistic medicine. And the school was very open, and they allowed me to teach things like, like cleansing and energy work and things like that.
mhm.
And it was strange because a lot of times in the class, the kids, like the first day, they would always keep asking me, like, "Are you gay?" And there was a big hubbub about that because I got brought into the administrator's office, and they kept apologizing and saying, like, the kids are not supposed to ask you that. And I'm like, "I don't care. Like, I'm gay." I told them I'm gay, and they were totally fine with it, and I was fine with it. But it was just this strange thing of how my sexuality was constantly kind of like intermingling with my spirituality, but it never vibed together at any point.
Yeah.
So, life went on. I was doing my teachings, and then I became a medicinal practitioner with alternative medicine. And I was also doing, I think, feng shui practitioner work at the time as well. And people were just like, I don't know how it happened, but a lot of people were getting the word out, and I was invited into all these $1 million homes and doing cleansings and,
Mhm,
helping them with their feng shui and energy, and started interacting
mhm,
with the spirits of the land. And so a lot of times they would invite me up to their place, and they had lodges in the woods, and they had ski resorts and all this stuff. And so I would just be like, "Sure, I'll come up for the weekend and I'll do the energy clearing and stuff like that."
mhm,
So I had started having really strange experiences. So the most notable was, um I was up in a ski resort, and I was just really antsy, and couldn't get to sleep. So I think it was like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. I started to go for a walk. And it was beautiful. It was a clear sky, full moon, like the whole ground's covered with snow, and there's just trees everywhere, and it was just very magical. So I put on my headphones, and I just started walking, and I just kept walking for like an hour or two, and I didn't even realize it. And then suddenly, like, I felt a presence in the woods near me, And I kept seeing, you know, when a car reflects on an animal's eyes, so I kept seeing like that reflected light of eyes and movement in the woods. And in my mind, I kept thinking like it's a wolf, like there's a wolf or something like that in the woods. And so I was freaked out, but not at the same time. So like I was in the middle of nowhere, in the snow, in the middle of the night, and I'm thinking like there's wolves everywhere. They're gonna come and get me, like what's gonna happen? And I just remember just sitting there and just this overwhelming energy coming over me. And I just lost track of time. Like I don't know how long I was standing there, but then at some point, like I thought I need to get out of here. So then I left. And I went to the ski resort manager and I said, you guys need to put out an alert because there are wolves like out there and people could get hurt. And he was just like, what are you talking about? He's like, there's no large animals for miles. Like we have rangers and everything that go out every day and they check. And I'm like, I saw a wolf. I know there were animals there. And he's like, that's impossible. There's no way you saw that. And I was just like, I don't know what that was. So I kind of just let it go. But then as I continued my Native American medicine training, she basically informed me, she's like, oh, your spirit animal finally like came to you. And so she, you know, we went through a whole ceremony and everything. And so apparently my spirit animals were communicating with me, though I had no idea how to work with them or engage with them. Like I spent several years like studying and they always would show up as animals. Like all these animals would show up and I would kind of work with them energetically. And even to the point where I started tattooing them on my body and I didn't know why. So everything kind of came to an abrupt halt. My first partner, who I was with for um, several years, died of a heart attack suddenly, and that kind of set me in a big depression. Um, and it took a few years to like really get out of that, and I started dating again. And I met this amazing man who was incredible and was a incredible musician, would go to all these concerts and everything and play the guitar and everything. And we really like it was really becoming something. And I don't know, he was like, I felt like this was his first incarnation or something because he didn't communicate normally. Like I understood him, but he always said how other people didn't understand him. And I just felt like there was a connection. We were going to move in together and everything like that. And so we were packing to leave our place that night. And he went out to the street to smoke a joint. And I went to follow him. And there was some guy standing next to him. And the guy stabbed him and he died.
Oh my
Oh
God.
my God.
And so that really that put me in a really bad place for a few years, and I really didn't do anything on a spiritual level. You know, I stopped teaching. I was just kind of like existing for a long time, um, and you know, trying to make sense of it and just survive, basically. Um, So a few more years went by and I didn't date or didn't want to, you know, do anything um, you know, romantic. It just wasn't a thing. And I really felt my spirituality calling. So I started doing a gay men's spiritual group and having just, you know, guys would come over and we'd hang out and we just talk about basic stuff about spirituality, but I just felt like it wasn't going very deep. And so we decided to have guest speakers, and one of the speakers was a Druid. And so he came in to talk about Druidism, and it just turned out that he was initiate of the unnamed path. And basically, one thing led to another, and then I became an initiate of the unnamed path. And it wasn't until that process that I was finally able to reconcile
Mm.
this, my spirituality, my sexuality, and my shadow. You
Yeah.
know, all my life, like every time I got a reading, people would always bring up this thing about how, you need to embrace your shadow, you need to incorporate your shadow, you need to, communicate with your shadow.
Mm.
And I just didn't understand. I was like, what are you talking about? But through the training in the unnamed path, like I finally was able to, like everything came together. Like all the work that I've been doing for so many years finally made sense.
Mm.
And just all the energy work, the different spirit animals that I was meeting, the everything that I've been through, like it all finally started coming together. And then the biggest lesson for me was empowerment, and through a lot of experiences that I had, like I thought that for me being a gay man, it was very important for me to fit in, to push down my sexuality, sometimes even shield my spirituality, like who I am. And it was just a lot of instances where I wasn't in my own power. And then I was in these relationships that were very unbalanced, with my family, with friends, with work, because I was afraid to kind of step into my power and to reclaim my power of who I was, because I felt like I was less than because I'm a gay man. I'm a
Mm.
second class citizen. I'm not important, and it's important for me to be homogenous and kind of be a part of society where I wasn't making waves or creating problems or anything like that. And that was my big lesson throughout initiation, was stepping into that power and reclaiming, like, I'm gay, I'm a powerful person, I'm here, my voice matters, and I can make a difference, and I don't have to readjust who I am or become a chameleon in a sort of way, uh in order to fit in with your groups. And that was one of the things, like I spent so many years with female-led spiritual groups. Like I wanted an all-male gay inclusive group, because that I never had that experience before, of where I
Mm.
could just be myself and be who I am, and be able to express that. And so that's kind of my journey. And now, being in the unnamed path and doing the work with the unnamed path, it really makes me feel like I'm home. And I am very grateful to the teachings in the unnamed path, because there was, even though I've gone through so many paths and traditions and practitioners and teachers, and it takes me all back to that Native American medicine woman. Like, if our Jenna had just said, Adam, being gay is part of your power.
Yeah.
It's who you are, and embrace that aspect of yourself, instead of saying, "Oh, well, that's okay. I don't mind that you're gay." Like, we'll look past that aspect of who you are, kind of thing. So that was, that that was my spiritual journey, like understanding that that's a powerful aspect of myself. And I love it now, because there's so many practitioners and traditions where people are like, being a gay man is powerful, like you carry a certain power with you. It's part of a tradition for many many millennia, and embrace that, and you know bring that into your practice of who you are, and what you're about.
Yeah.
So that was my journey.
Wow. 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 Well, good segue to the next question. And uh, my comment though, in just listening, and I can imagine as people listen to the call, one is thank you for your authenticity of sharing the complete journey, and how many of us have felt like we didn't belong or we didn't fit within our own communities, and that there are many levels of coming out. I mean, as a practitioner, you know, I spent 10 years teaching people about coming out processes. and how intricate and how much we go from denial to synthesis or celebration. And to hear you arrive in, oh, I'm powerful because I'm a gay man, and I bring that to the spiritual gifts that I offer the planet and each other. So yummy. So thank you for all that, which leads me into, so on this journey, how do you see us as a queer tribe? Or do you?
I do. I definitely see us as a queer tribe. And I see us, and I would include the people that are here and some of the other practitioners that we've interacted with as sort of the vanguard of this. So I think we're just starting to really step into our power.
Mm,
Um, and that our purpose here is to delve into these deep areas, to travel in these other realms and these worlds, and bring our knowledge and our healing back to the rest of the tribe. I think that we finally, in our long history of struggle, we finally come to a place where, there's some level of security enough for us to, and there were definitely trailblazers in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, that were definitely around, but I know that their voices were not held up as much as they could be because they were still fighting
uh,
all that that society was putting on them. I mean, it's it's one thing to be spiritual, but then you're spiritual and you're queer, like, oh, that's too much. Like you become really on the fringe. And then, and that's how I understand how the radical fairies developed in other organizations, because they needed to leave society and establish themselves in other places where societal norms would just not try to encroach. Um, and so I think there's definitely a group of trailblazers, of vanguards, and those have come before us that have created the space to empower us to go deeper and travel even further. And and they were there to provide healing, but I think now our voices can really be heard. Like, we could publish a book ourselves, and there are publishers who would accept these books, on queer magic and queer workings and queer healing. And there's so many practitioners out there who are openly queer and practicing and cater their work towards the tribe, the queer tribe, and the LGBTQ organizations. And people are wanting to hear it. Like, there are people that want to hear the message and understand the message. And I think that is our ultimate role. Like, people are waking up and they're understanding, and there need to be the healers and the teachers present in order to be able to teach those lessons, help them heal, and help them to empower their themselves. I feel that our tribe carries a lot of wounds with it. Even though being gay or queer is accepted, um, a lot of them struggle with substance abuse and addiction, poor self-esteem, self-hatred. And, even if they come from amazing, loving, supporting families, then there's comparisons, well, that guy's hotter and this guy makes more money than me and he drives a Porsche, and all this stuff, where if we really understood our purpose and our talents, like, all of the shadow and everything would not come into play all the time.
yeah.
So I think you know, that's what we're here for. We're here to help, and we're here to heal, and we're here to be voices
Mm,
and uh enlighten the tribe and the community, and help them to collectively heal.
yeah.
And and I think they're really at the stage there in a place where they're receptive. And I'm just excited to be around in a time like this. Like, I see queer authors and queer voices and just powerful people who are spiritual and magical,
Yeah.
who have amazing organizations like the two of you. And like, you're out and proud, and you can promote, and people love you. And there's just there's so much accessibility now, and so much ability to connect with people over the internet and through Zoom, and with social media. Even though I know social media is, but we have to understand, for those of us that live in big cities on the coasts, there's a whole bunch of our tribe that lives in the Midwest, in very oppressed states and everything. And I still see these new people who are just coming to terms with their sexuality and their spirituality. Like, they have no idea, they don't know where to go or who to talk to, and they have no one in their community to talk to. You you two live up in San, like, literally in 8 hours I could be up there and be with an
Yeah.
amazing community. Like, these people are hundreds of miles away from anything.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's really important for us to get the word out and be public, and interview each other and talk to each other, and be out there, so people can see this. So some kid or person stumbling on social media, like, comes across this and is like, wow, look at these people, this is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Great.
how I feel.
Great. Great. Thank you. Great. And another great segue. So it sounds like you're already kind of leaning into my last question before we open up to the colors, which I love your statement. I mean, just even looking at the people who are on the call presently, as well as people who are going to watch it, how many leaders have been drawn to kind of find each other and support each other in a way that I think is pushing the narrative more into the light than ever has been, which is really juicy. So leading into the next question, and I'll even put a little bit of a frame, or bias from my end. My my belief is, in our work, we talk about body stories, that we have stories that are carried, whether they're generational stories or there are individual stories or both. But as queer people, I feel like part of what's happening is an emergence of the wondrously madeness of us queer folk, and that's starting to get acknowledged, that we are wondrously made and we have something to contribute. And I think about, I'm wearing my little Israel Palestinian pin today, but all of the generations of queer folk who have been oppressed, but all the generations within our own country that have been oppressed by this, that, and the other, whether it's race or age or, demographics or territorialisms or backgrounds or da 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 da. And we as queer people, I see really kind of opening up and being gatekeepers, and to heal the inner self as well as invite a greater healing. So that was a big frame from me. But how do you see a vision for us as a queer tribe, or as a movement of LGBTQ plus people, or just even as gay men? Parcel that out for yourself. But what's your vision for us, or what are some of your takeaways that you feel like we're moving into?
That's a great question. And I don't know if I have an answer of where we're moving into. Being in such an astounding time right now,
Mm,
I don't know what the future holds for us. I just know that I feel like we're stepping into a time of true empowerment for ourselves.
mm,
Um, and what my plans are is just to continue to be a voice that's out there, of promotion. And I think the other thing is, cross collaboration and working with other practitioners.
Mm.
I would love to, to see sort of a coalition of different groups coming together, different types of practitioners coming together, and planning something, um that creates sort of a main voice that could be heard by so many people. I think it's important for us to be present at all the gatherings, and the different communities and different setups, so that a queer voice can be heard. I think it's important for us to talk with the next generation and make sure they don't forget, because they have so many liberties and freedoms now, all the ancestors and the people that came before us to bring us to this place. I think it's important for us to kind of sit in our truth, and to be able to allow a lot of different voices to be heard. I think as we're finding our we're finding our foundations, and they have a tendency to be a little bit different. There are different types of practitioners, and they're focusing in different areas. My choice was to go with the unnamed path and to be part of the unnamed path and be initiated in that tradition. There are many other queer traditions, and especially queer male traditions, spiritual traditions out there that deal and dive into the male mysteries. And one of the things that I really want everyone to understand is, like, it's not a competition. There's room for everybody.
Mm.
We should all be working together,
Mm.
to have all our voices heard.
Mm.
And there's nothing saying one is better than the other, and that comes from such an Abrahamic, religious perspective. The Christians and the Jews and the Muslim, like, who's the truth, when you get to heaven, which one is the actual voice, there's of the truth, when you that that you end up with. And I don't want us to fall into that paradigm. Like,
Mm.
why does it have to be a competition, or who's right, or who's the best? One of the things I've learned, being a queer male mystery practitioner, is there are many paths to it, and there are many mysteries, and they work in many different ways. And even the most amazing thing is Sawyer and I, are even exploring female mysteries, for queer female mysteries from our perspective. And it's like, I never thought that I would be part of that conversation, but that's something that
Mm.
is being developed as well. And it just reminds me, like, there is no right or wrong way. There is no right or wrong path. There is no right or wrong tradition. No tradition is wrong, or how they see things, or how they practice. Like, we all practice the way we want to. Like, we make this our own. It's a time of empowerment, and what works best for us. It's like, if you came to me and you're like, I hate, the pop chart music, and I only love classical music. And then me saying, like, well, classical music is the only music there should be. Like, that's the best music and the only music,
Right.
But it's like, it doesn't work that way. Like, different people like different kinds of music. And it's, how can you say one type of music is not good and another type of music? And I think, in a way, our souls make music, like our spirituality is our music, and they all should be heard, and they're all good, and they're all valid. They're just different.
Mm.
So that is my main vision, is just making sure that we all stay connected, we work together, we understand we have different perspectives. If I meet someone, who's a queer Satanist, I'm not going to be like, oh, the Satanic Temple, that's just not for me. That's the way they want to practice, and that's fine. There's nothing to say that's wrong, or what they're doing is inaccurate. And I know in our community, a lot of practitioners like, that's not how that's done, or that's not how this is done. But we live in a time when there's so much information.
Yeah.
There's so much information out there of how to practice, of different ways to approach things.
Yeah.
you know if it's not hurting anyone, I think the most important thing is just follow what you love and what you enjoy,
Mm.
and find your community that works for you, and allow those communities to work with other communities, because we all have a piece, and and we should all share our voices and talk to each other and communicate, because we're more powerful together. There's no reason for us to be divided, or you know or inclusive, or and that doesn't mean that you can't have a path that, if you practice a certain way, or it only is a certain practitioner that you want to incorporate, that's fine, but you always leave the conversation open to
Mm.
communicate with other paths of other people, of other practitioners,
Well,
because we, at the end of the day, are a tribe, we are a community, and it's really, really important that we remember that.
mm.
There are those that have come before us, and their voices are extremely
Yeah.
important. There are those who will, precede us, and we need to make sure that we share our knowledge and our visibility to them, so that they can carry on
Yeah.
the traditions, and they may not be dealing with the same thing. One of the things we're struggling with in the Unnamed Path is, one of the books we is a recommended reading is Velvet Rage. And we're seeing that the younger, queer men that are coming up, like, don't have the same trauma that we
Sure.
had of being in the closet,
Yeah.
because there are many more accepting people, and they didn't have to hide their sexuality, and they didn't. So they're coming from a different perspective, and they'll adapt it, and they'll
Yeah.
create
Yeah.
something that's their own, and what works for them. And we have to respect that too. Like, we're creating traditions, we created traditions, and those traditions are going to change and adapt, and we have to be flexible, and we have to allow the next generation that precedes us to be able to formulate it how it looks for them and what works for them.
Right.
And it's very important to carry that forward. Like, we don't want to lose our voices, we don't want to lose our traction. We've come such a long way, and it's so important
Yeah.
for all the work that has been done, and all the work that's come before us, and it just, I'm humbled and I'm honored
Mm.
by so much in the past. And I read the works that were done in the 70s and the 80s, and I just go, it's just so profound. Like, they
Yeah.
had such profound wisdom and knowledge, and now we're where they were talking about it, now we're kind of living it, and we're exploring it, and we're going deeper with it. And
Yes.
I love that. I
Yeah.
think that's incredible, and that's the direction I think our community
Yes.
is going in and should go in, and that those of us should hold that up and support
Right.
that, so that it
Right.
can continue to grow.
Great, great. Thank you. Wow, that was juicy, and I wish we had another hour just to keep picking your brain about all this. But my takeaway is simply, we are a tribe. I love you. You just kind of named that for us, and that we're all making our own music,
Yeah.
and how important that is. Whatever your music is, to embrace it and to let it be a gift for you in the world. We've only got a couple minutes left. So I'd love to open the lines to anyone who's on the call actively, who might have a comment or a question before Adam leaves us today.
Yeah, go ahead and unmute yourself. I may not be able to see you, so don't rely on seeing your hand. So go ahead and unmute yourself if you'd like to say something or ask a question. We're open.
Well, Adam,
I just wanted to
tell
say
us,
thank you for.
tell us a little bit about what the unnamed path is. And when you speak about being a practitioner, what are you a practitioner of?
Thank
I
you,
mean,
Tony. So
yeah.
the Unnamed Path is currently we're calling a shamanic tradition for men who love men. We're still exploring the term shamanic, but it is the term that most people understand today. So basically, it's a tradition that is split into 4 paths. So there is shamanism, death walking, energy healing, and magic and prophecy. And so people who are interested can go and be trained and learn techniques to be able to explore shamanism, death walking, energy healing, and magic and prophecy, and how to incorporate that into their lives, into their spiritual practice, and practice from the perspective of being a queer or gay man, essentially, or self-identifying man. And the tradition is very young. It's only 10 years old, or 11, I think, years old, around there. And we feel that the tradition was gifted to our tribe through Hyperion, through the what we call the ancestors of men who love men. So all the queer and gay men, or self-identifying men who came before us, essentially came and gave us this wisdom and this knowledge to practice. And the ultimate goal of being initiated in the unnamed path is to heal yourself, and then take those skills and abilities and to heal others. So people have strengths in different parts of the path. So my strength is shamanism, or what I call spirit walking, being able to travel into the spirit worlds and commune with spirits and guides, and to make pacts, bargains, and get wisdom and knowledge, and kind of bring it back. My story from the wolves in the forest, and many all of my spirits ended up coming to me as animals. And so they're not the animals per se, but for whatever reason in this lifetime, my guides feel that animals are the best way to communicate with me, so they take on the guise of animals.
Right.
And then the other thing that I'm pretty good at is the divination. So using tarot and other divination methods to foresee the truth. And the core of that also is energy healing, but because I've had so many years of energy healing work. So those are the 3 paths that I kind of roll with a lot easier than others.
Fabulous. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the question.
Okay.
And we really do need, we're running over. So if there's like a burning last comment or question, go for it. And then we do need to close. Anybody?
Oh, Adam, what is your website?
I don't have a personal website, but the unnamed path is unnamedpath.org. And if people have questions, they're welcome to reach out to us and ask away. We're happy to answer questions they have.
Great. And if you forget all that, just go to the recording on this call, or last recording with Sawyer, and the site is on there as well. So in case you forget, but pretty easy, unnamedpath.org. Great. All right. All right, beloveds, I think we should call it a day. Thank you for all of you who tuned in, and those who will tune in, and stay tuned, I guess is the word, for more conversations with the queer tribe upcoming.
Yes.
So namaste.
Namaste. Thank you all for joining us.
Yeah.
It's been a joy.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.